Hi, I've been gone for a while. Life and a visit to the psych ward has kept me quite busy. But in the moments where I either had time or was mentally able to, I kept myself busy with multidimensional variants of Minesweeper. Sorry, I have always loved Minesweeper. I started playing it in my early teens after seeing my brother play it on his phone, and I forgot about it. A few years back, I started getting back into it and got really good, in my opinion. I soon learned about Minesweeper variants and found 3D Minesweeper, non-Euclidean Minesweeper, it used to be free, and my favorite 4D Minesweeper on Steam. Links are in the description, by the way. Tangent. Slight tangent on 3D Minesweeper. I love it. It is really fun. It's actually 3D instead of just being a flat representation of the higher dimensions. There are two modes, them being Classic and Sweep. We have each having an easy, medium, and hard variant. When starting out, do Sweep mode. Classic mode is so hard. Beating hard mode on Classic took me multiple attempts, with the best one still taking 26 minutes. One of the first successful attempts took 51 minutes. Compare that with my best attempt in Sweep mode, which is 1 minute and 10 seconds. Oh my god. Needless to say, I spent way too much time on this instead of learning for school. That and Tetris. And non-Euclidean Minesweeper. And eventually 4D Minesweeper on Steam. Anyway, there are custom options you can unlock once you beat one of the game presets. They're all visual effects, but some do impact your gameplay a bit, so be aware of that if you want to beat my record. Back to the point, 4D Minesweeper inspired me a lot. 4D Minesweeper is still my most played game on Steam with 217.5 hours and my favorite Minesweeper variant. And at my lowest point mentally, I decided to recreate it. But I use Linux, so it was a terminal program. It was a fun project. There's still a bunch of stuff to add, but it is fully functional in its current state, except for some graphical issues. I think it has full feature parity with 4D Minesweeper on Steam. It's controlled solely with a keyboard. It's actually really nice. You can easily change the settings for generating a new game. There's a lot of information available on the side, and there's even Vim-like movement alternatives. Because of course there are, I'm a Linux user. There's also a save and load function, but those are still not accessible from inside the game, even though I added functions for those months ago. A bit technical. 4D Minesweeper. The program is a TUI app, a terminal user interface, so it only runs in the terminal and uses Unicode characters for the bombs and flags. I also decided to write my own display functions, so forget any chance of this working on Windows. If you want to make your own TUI programs, please use existing libraries such as ncurses. I'm just kind of a special case and really stubborn sometimes. There are 3 different arrays that store all of the data of the field. There's the grid, mask, and delta. Delta and grid are the same, except for delta having its values adjusted depending on if a flag is in a cell's area of influence. The mask array stores the state of a cell. I guess I should explain my terms a little bit. Sorry. The following are the terms I have come to use in most of my projects for Multidimensional Minesweeper. I don't know if there are more official terms, but I think mine are good enough. Field. The field is the grid you play on. Doesn't matter how many dimensions or if you are playing on a hyperbolic plane. Cells. Cells make up the field. Each cell has a value and a state. In my projects, the value was any number upwards starting with -1. -1 is a bomb, and any number above it is how many bombs, i.e. -1s, are in the cell's area of influence. I'll get to that later. Each cell has a state. These are covered, uncovered, flagged covered, and flagged uncovered. Tangent. I know flagged uncovered is kind of redundant, because I could just disable placing flags on uncovered cells, but I like it. You could argue it makes a toggle flag function easier, because you can just blindly add or subtract 2 depending on the result of the floor of the state divided by 2, but that wasn't my original intention. Area of influence. The area of influence is a 3 to the power of the field dimensions volume around the cell. This does not necessarily apply if you play non-Euclidean Minesweeper or if your cells aren't squares. So in 2D Minesweeper, aka Classic Minesweeper, it's a 3x3 area, and for 4D Minesweeper, it's a 3x3x3x3 volume around the cell. A cell's absolute value is the total number of mines in the area of influence. A cell's delta/relative value, the absolute value minus the amount of flagged cells in the area of influence. That should do it. Fingers crossed. So, in my 4D Minesweeper, the cell is split across 3 arrays, 2 containing the values, the delta and absolute, from the delta and field arrays respectively, and 1 containing the state, the mask array. And the field is the 3 arrays. In code, all the arrays are actually just 1D, and you can get a certain value by just summing up all the coordinates multiplied with every dimension leading up to it. It's easier than it sounds, I promise. Note that I'm starting with an index of 0, because I like it more. Let's do an example with 4 dimensions. For this, I'll be using the normal axes labels though. We just expand our formula to something readable, simplify it, insert all the values, and calculate. Easy. This formula can also be written recursively, which makes it really nice for multidimensional Minesweeper. If we expand this, we get... You may have noticed that we don't need all the dimensions. This may explain why I wrote this. Note that field and grid are synonymous in this case. I kind of forgot the Y dimension, and it is written a bit weirdly. It still works though, so I guess it's fine. I only recently realized this, and I've never had a problem with it. Don't worry though, this is probably the last time you'll hear about this function anyway, because I learned a new programming language and needed a neat little starter project. Multidimensional Minesweeper in Racket with a GUI. Racket is a functional programming language from the Lisp family. When doing anything in a functional programming language, you have to, if you can, do it recursively. It is mandatory. Anyway, a teacher introduced it to my class in a preparing for the final exam type lesson. Tangent. In retrospect, I am kinda glad I went, even though all of the other lessons were pretty useless. The teacher spent 2 lessons just installing Rust. Maybe that's just a Windows problem, because they're a good teacher in other subjects. I don't know. I literally only went to that one class because one of the doctors at the psych ward said it would help me with the final exam thingy. Tangent. School fucking sucks absolute ass. I learned nothing for the final exam. Bullshit. And I still completed with, quote, excellent success. Note this is translated. Pretty sure I was one of the best people in my class. I at least didn't hear excellent success a lot when they were handing out the grade sheet thingies. Anyway, for that entire process I was busy with Multidimensional Minesweeper and a little stone bunny I made as part of my therapy. I'm really proud of it, it's really cute. Racket is an amazing language to start programming with. The documentation is great, and the syntax is orgasmic. I honestly think that Lisp syntax is the best. Just parentheses everywhere. You also have a bunch of libraries to use, like a GUI library that uses GTK. This was also my first introduction to GUI programming, by the way. Technically second if you count PPMP, where I used the X11 and Wayland API directly. Anyway, it was really nice making Multidimensional Minesweeper with Racket. I made a new widget for the cells and for the field. Each cell could now store its values and state and any function associated with it. Basic OOP stuff. The field widget was just a container full of containers with some gameplay relevant functions such as pause and movement, and values like game state, current field, etc. etc. I also no longer had an array with all the cells. Instead, I just recursively iterated through the container in the field until I hit a cell. Since this was my first project and only project yet, I experimented a lot with some of the things Racket had to offer. So I don't recommend looking at the source code. There's a bunch of half-used features and inconsistent implementations for similar functions. It's also needlessly dense, and my cell widget definition is around 200 lines long and called mine button. The whole program is also 1000 lines in one file. Better than TUI 4D Minesweeper in C with 2617 lines though. I also added RGB to HSV and vice versa color conversion, cause I'm obsessed with images. Watch my The Core Concepts of Image Manipulation video. I just didn't want to add additional assets for the area of influence highlighting. Plus now you can tint the assets using the HSV color space. I don't know why you would want any other color than pink though. Since I was making a GUI now, I also moved away from Unicode characters and instead drew my own bomb, flag, covered and uncovered cell assets. If you want to run it, it is kinda slow and large fields take very long to generate. Please also ignore the commit timestamps. I did an oopsie and forgore. Multidimensional Minesweeper in C, also with a GUI. Around a month later, and a successful escape from the psych ward, I decided I wanted to learn GTK4 in C. C is my language of choice, even though it isn't my favorite. That'd be funky, by the way. The speed is just kind of unbeatable. The project is still unfinished, but it is at a playable state, and I don't know if I'll have the motivation to do anything more with it. I do try, it's just kind of hard for me. I wrote it quite similarly to the Racket version, though I actually split up my code across multiple files this time. This also means you can yoink my minesweeper.c and my minesweeper.h files and make your own GUI. This is where my field and cell widgets are defined, and the first time I actually thought about maybe naming things a bit more consistently. It is a lot faster and shouldn't crash. You can also make way larger fields than the Racket version. I still have to implement keyboard movement and use the game state functions and make delta mode available. Again, I don't know if I'll be able to actually do that though. Note, 24th of December 2025. Multidimensional Minesweeper in C with GTK4 is now finished. I don't think I'll continue developing it, cause I can't really be bothered. It has keyboard controls now, and some other stuff that should work without any problems. Fingers crossed. Inputs in Multidimensional Minesweeper. There are 3 inputs. Please ignore the fact that they aren't in the same order across the Racket and C versions, and that the labels are different for bombs/mines. Seed and bombs only allow a positive integer. The dimensions input allows as many integers or something like a to the power of b's separated by spaces as you want. So you could enter 4, 3, 5, 6 to the power of 2, and it would get converted to 4, 3, 5, 6, 6. You should, however, choose numbers greater than 2, not because my program can't handle it, but because it makes solving the field impossible. For any 2 to the power of n field, you basically have an amount of bombs divided by 2 to the power of n minus the uncovered cells chance to hit a bomb. There's no tactic. It's just pure luck. I should probably explain how to play this game now. How to play. The first time I opened 4D Minesweeper on Steam, I was so confused. It took me a while until I got the hang of it and started developing some tactics for it. First, I should probably clarify how I even get a field layout for any higher dimensional field. Higher dimensional fields. Let's start with 3D Minesweeper. If we want an accurate depiction of our field, each cell would be a little cube packed into a bigger cube. What we can now do is slice the cube parallel to one of its faces and spread each field slice out so that we can lay them next to each other, kind of like how you lay out the bread slices before making a sandwich. So for any n-dimensional field, we slice it parallel to one of its faces, spread the slices out and put them next to each other, and repeat until we have a 2D representation of an n-dimensional field. This is the lazy approach. Could also project the higher dimensional field onto a lower dimension. This is what the 3D Minesweeper website I mentioned in the beginning does. It's projecting a 3D body onto a 2D screen. I know this doesn't really seem special, but trust me, implementing 3D to 2D projection is really fun and you will learn a lot. You could make this for 4D Minesweeper and just give the player an extra control so they can scroll through the 4th dimension, but doing this for anything higher is probably too tedious. It would probably just slow your solving down as well. Playing should be a little bit clearer now. It's the same as classic Minesweeper. You just have to check in the pink area around the cursor for where the mines could be. Other than that, a lot of the tactics of classic Minesweeper are transferable to Multidimensional Minesweeper, and there are even a few new ones. But I'm not gonna tell them to you. So that's about all I had to say. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I'll leave you with some gameplay footage. Hope you give my programs a shot, or at least 4D Minesweeper on Steam. And remember to have fun. Oh, and both Multidimensional Minesweeper variants should work on Windows. I wouldn't know why they wouldn't, but no matter the OS, you will have to compile the C version and install Dr. Racket for the Racket version. So, it's the 26th of November 2025. I started writing this on the 28th of September 2025. It's been nearly 2 months and a lot has happened in that time. First of all, I'm in uni studying 2 subjects at once. Can't recommend. So I don't really have a lot of time, but apparently still enough time to create 4D Minesweeper for the terminal, but in Rust, and using Ratatouille instead of implementing everything from scratch. If you haven't noticed, Minesweeper has become a really important part of my life. I'm still kind of confused by this, because I've done a lot more impressive stuff, but Minesweeper has just always been there. I don't know. That's something to unwrap later. Just like you have to unwrap all the variables in Rust, am I right? Oh. Rust is a really neat programming language. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to develop with than C. For one, the compiler is cracked and handholds you through most of your problems. Plus, you don't have any memory problems. Fixing memory issues probably took up the most time all the times I developed in C. Rust is very restrictive though, and kind of annoying when you're used to C. 4D Minesweeper in Rust is very close to 4D Minesweeper in C, and I'd actually recommend it more. Plus, it should work on most OSs because of the libraries I used. It has a config file, marks, and a sweep mode, in addition to all the features of 4D Minesweeper in C. It looks a lot nicer, and there shouldn't be any visual bugs, unless you switch between modes when in the revealed game state and are flagging mines. I'm gonna add some gameplay footage as well. Yeah, Bye!